Hey everyone, Rob Ryder. What is today? September 26, 2012. And we're looking at something that was on, when was this? 1961. And it's in Plat Book 26, page 240. All right, so that's what this came out of. And you can see that some clerk of the circuit court, lowercase, or proper case, right? J. Alex Arnett, um, is the one saying this is there. So, let's see, where do we want to go first? Well, let's go to this. Anyways, I went and I Googled J. Alex Arnett's name, and, I got a few hits. These are out of some books that were had stuff to do in Florida. And you can see it's from the clerks of circuit courts, all capital letters. And it's to the clerk circuit court proper case, West Palm Beach. So who is this lowercase clerk or proper case clerk circuit court today? Back at this time it was J. Alex Arnett. And I'm just wondering, so this is Dorothy H. Wilkin, clerk of the circuit court. Is that the same as clerk circuit court? This says clerk of the circuit court. This one says clerk, comma, circuit court. Mean the same thing? You have to ask a English expert. I can barely speak the language. But anyways, so she's, this lady is certifying, Dorothy, that this is certified that we have searched the records, the clerk of the circuit court, in and for Palm Beach County, Florida. Boy, it sure sounds like she's the one. She can go look at the records for the clerk of the circuit court. At this time, find only one plat recorded under the name of Palm Point. And it's in 26240. 1998. And so what did we see when we were looking at this? Yeah, there it is, 26240. So she's certifying this is the only one in there back as far as like 1998 or whatever it said. So what is it we're looking at? Well, let's make it a little bit smaller here. We can see better. Plat of Palm Point. Now she was saying, she's certifying that this is the only one recorded under the name of Palm Point. Palm Point. Being a replat of a portion of Government Lot 7, Section 35. There's only one under Palm Point, but it's a replat of one that already existed. And this replat is recorded in Plat Book 23, page 2. So it was platted in one book. Now it's been replatted, and what would cause this to happen? So let's go look. So we got a bunch of stuff happening here. Known to all men, these presents, that Lloyd and Anna, his wife, the owners in fee simple of the tract of land, lying in being, I can make that bigger. Anyways, what they're saying is the tract, as you can see, the tract of land isn't called Palm Point. It's just the land lying and being in Government Lot 7, Section 35, Township 40. That would be, and shown here on as Palm Point. Okay, first time it was ever known as Palm Point is right now. And now we're going to really describe it. And so as you can see, you can have, I found my mouse, quite a long section of what the how the land's described. Right? But that's really not what I want to read. I'm going to send this along. You can all read that at your leisure. But let's go down a little bit lower and see what happened. So whatever it is, they are more particularly described as follows, to wit. So the owners are going to do something with this. Subject to existing right-of-ways of record, of course. Now I wonder where those are at. I bet you they're not on this one. Maybe on the other one. Right? This again, the one we're looking at here is actually 26,240, and somewhere on this paper at the top it says it's in a totally different book under a different name. So it's been incorporated by reference without actually being here. Has caused the same to be surveyed and platted as shown hereon, and does hereby dedicate, he's dedicating, granting, to the perpetual use of the public as public highways, the drive lanes, the roads shown hereon, and the use of, probably hard for you guys to read when I do that, isn't it? Sorry. Crank it down here a little bit. I keep forgetting the scan doesn't scan as fast as I move, so I'm just trying so we can get the whole thing on one page. I'm having a hard time finding my mouse. Okay, so perpetual use, easements for the construction, maintenance, public utilities, drainage easements, as shown on the plat. Reserving, however, unto themselves, their heirs, successors, assigns, or legal representatives, the reversion or reversions thereof, when the same shall be abandoned by the public or discontinued by law. So this is where it was basically donated by the owner to the public for public use. But it always kept the right of reversion in the grantor. Unto themselves, their heirs, their successors, their assigns. So if you were to have a piece of property that came out of this original township piece, you're an assign. And it was granted to public use. So we're going to go learn a little bit about this. And it can always be reverted to you now as the owner. So, you know, one thing you want to do, it looks like, is make sure you say your fee simple on the warranty deed. Be abandoned by the public or discontinued by law. Well, how in the hell do you do that? I wonder. Let's go look what a reversion is. Reversion, or state in reversion. The residue of an estate left by operation of law in the grantor or his heirs, if the heirs or the heirs of a tester, commencing in possession on the determination of a particular estate granted or devised, any future interest left in the transferor or his successor. Okay, so basically, what the folks did is they gave some things away, but they didn't give everything away. They gave some rights away. So what's a determination? The ending or expiration of an estate or interest in property, or of a right, power, or authority. That's out of Black's Fifth. So this reversion, it is vested interest or estate. That's what reversion is, vested interest or estate. Inasmuch as a person entitled to it has a fixed right to future enjoyment. Any reversionary interest which is not subject to condition precedent, any reversionary interest which is not subject to condition precedent. Okay, nothing has to happen prior to this for you to have the right. It arises when the owner of real estate devises or conveys an interest in it less than his own. Okay, so what he's saying is he didn't give up all his rights, only gave up part. And so he has this, you have this reversion as the grantor, right of reversion. The term reversion has two meanings. First, as designating the estate left in the grantor, okay, whatever part of the estate he has. And so really what we're talking about is splitting of titles. Okay, he's got one part of the title, the other person has the other part of the title. During the continuation of a particular estate, and also the residue left in the grantor or his heirs after termination of particular, it must have gone on, of particular. It differs from remainder in that it arises by the act of law, whereas remainder is the act of the parties. So this reversion is by act of law. You already have it. It was granted to you by this nice man here. Who the heck was it again? Right? It says right here that their heirs, successors, assigns, or legal representatives, the reversion or reversions thereof, whenever the same shall be abandoned by the public or discontinued by law. Well, let's see how the law took care of this for us. So a reversion, moreover, is the remnant left in the grantor, while a remainder is the remnant of a whole estate disposed of after a preceding part of the same has been given away. So we don't have a remainder, we have a reversion. A reversion, moreover, is a remnant left in the grantor. And the grantor gave it to you as one of his assigns. So what's the possibility of reverter? Future estate left in creator or in his successors. So somebody back when they did this created this estate, but it's left in the creator. The future estate is left in the creator or in his successors in interest upon simultaneous creation of a estate that will terminate automatically within a period of time defined by occurrence or specified event. Okay, so we're giving something away for a term of time. That's all that's happening. The interest which remains in grantor or testator after the conveyance or device of a fee simple determinable, and which permits the grantor to be revested automatically in his estate on breach of the condition. Beautiful. It would really be good to go look at the other plat book and see what it says on the original plat. That's why they can only find when they change the name, so that, right, it used to be called Township something or other, and now it's, Palm something. They just changed the name, and it's the only one listed there, but it incorporates by reference to the other one, to the original, by book and page, that they go together. A reversion in property law is a future interest that is retained by the grantor after the conveyance of an estate of a lesser quantum that he has, such as the owner of fee simple granting a life estate or leasehold estate. There you go. If you grant a lease or life estate, and you're going to soon see that's just another name for a lease. Once for a lease, a life estate is 20 years, because that's what life is in common law. And a leasehold is just for a particular set of years. But it's just a lease. That's all it was. Once the lesser estate comes to an end, the lease expires, or the life estate tenant dies, the property automatically reverts, hence reversion, back to the grantor. So if the lease is done, or whoever you gave the whatever tenant you gave it to dies, it reverts to you. Now, the life estate was used with a king with his knights, right? He would give them a tract of land; it was theirs, as long as the knight was alive and in good standing. When he died, it didn't necessarily go to his heirs. First, the king wanted to make sure whoever took it, that was a knight's estate. You had to be a knight. It had nothing to do with being a knight's son. unless the son became a knight. If not, then the next knight that took the job got it. And they booted out the son who didn't want to be a knight. A reversion interest is logically similar, but not legally identical, to the rights retained by someone who lends his property to another for a limited time. Well, they just said lend. Lease means rent. Okay? A life estate is for fealty. You have this estate as long as you're doing what I ask. And so these judges, these sergeants at law, that's what they have, a life estate. They better work for the king. Not all judges, maybe not even most, but the ones that matter. So although the bailee would have the right to possess the property during a limited duration, these rights are neither permanent nor exclusive. When the time comes, the property rights of possession will terminate and return to the holder of the reversion. Well, if you're holding a warranty deed that says the rights were granted to you, through this chain of other warranty deeds, and now you're just the latest assignee, well, you're the holder of the reversion. And so the property rights will come back to you. Reversions are commonly created in real property transactions, particularly during a lease. Go figure. Arrangements as well as device. Lease arrangements as well as device that transfer real property through a will. Okay, so this will stuff, let's see how this goes. In the context of a will, a testator may devise a fee simple estate to a devisee. The testator may retain the reversion in the estate or give it to another individual. The owner of the life estate will retain ownership of the property during the devisee's life and may freely alienate this interest. That's why our ancestors' death certificates are only registered. They've never been frickin' recorded. They're just registered with the Register of Deeds. That's where they're at. So you can't get the estate of your loved ones because technically they've not been seen dead, right? We're always considered deceased, but we're never considered dead. They've done the death certificate and they put it in the Register of Deeds, and register is not the same as record. It has not made it to the office of the recorder yet. We need to take him from there to the office of the recorder, who I think is the clerk of the circuit court. In Michigan, the clerk of the circuit court, lowercase, is also the register in chancery. And the court of chancery, people got a lot of their definitions for it. Here's mine. The court of chancery is where you go to get a writ, to get an original writ under the Great Seal of the Court of Chancery. That's what Blackstone says. And when you go there, these clerks, you tell them what your problem is. They're supposed to have a writ, an original writ to give you so you can go sue out your case, or they're supposed to make one up. But that's what the Court of Chancery was for. They made up the original writs under the Great Seal of the Court of Chancery. And those are the we command writs, right? Those are the lawful writs under the seal of the king. Those aren't the ones that we see getting to us. We're getting them from private courts. But we want the one from the Court of Chancery. And so these death certificates have been put on deposit, and they're sitting in the Register of Deeds. And if you were to go get a certified copy and take it to the office of the recorder, the Register of Chancery, the clerk of the circuit court, whoever, and say, I'd like to have this recorded, that I acknowledge and accept it, I think that puts it into the record now that your ancestors are deceased and their estate can forward to you. And that's a whole other story because we're talking about, property. So let's continue on. But because they've never been recorded, none of our ancestors are actually ever shown as being deceased or dead. Let's put it dead. Whereas right now, because they've not seen us, we're just considered deceased, and deceased doesn't take a body. Once they have your ancestor's body and put a toe tag on it, well, now they have the body, and they're going to go register that he died. But they're not going to record it. We need to do that. Okay, tenancy for years is a simplest illustration of a reversion interest in the context of leasing arrangements. An owner of real property becomes a leaseor by transferring a bundle of rights, so just rights, not property, just rights, including but not limited to the right of entry to the leasee for a certain period of time, right? That's why they can come and check your meter on your house. You gave them a right of entry for a particular period of time. It's called a utility franchise. The leaser typically retains the reversion interest in the property, which will mature after the lease expires. A common example of this transaction is the leasing of an apartment to a tenant for a 1-year period, or a right-of-way through your property for a certain number of years. When the lease expires, the rights of the leasee are terminated and exclusive ownership of the property returns to the leaseor. So you get exclusive ownership, but the other thing is, where's the frickin' rent? They keep talking about a lease. Where is your rent? That's what they're collecting every month because we haven't claimed it. They're still waiting for an owner to show up. You know, lawfully, that isn't what they're doing. They're concealing. But lawfully, we're all dead. Deceased. Unlike some other future interest, reversions have always been fully alienable. So you can give it away to somebody else. You can alien it. Alienation is the splitting of the title into a legal and equitable title, where it used to just be the title. So we saw leasehold estates earlier, is an ownership of temporary right to hold land, property, or property in which a lessee or tenant holds rights of real property by some form of title from a leaseor or landlord. Right? They hold it by some form of title. Although a tenant does not hold rights to real property, a leasehold estate is typically considered personal property. A tenant does not hold rights to real property. He has rights to personal property. And so the rights he has is to the personal property of who's ever occupying the land that they have the lease on. Right? That's why they're coming after your all capital letter name. That has your personal property in it. And that's what they have a right to. Because we've not said, hey, is the lease over yet? And the Office of the Recorder still shows that the lease hasn't been terminated. There's not been any termination in yet, or nobody's ever stepped forward to say, hey, lease is long over. It was for 20 years. Where's my rent? Leasehold is a form of land tenure or property tenure where one party buys the right to occupy land or a building for a given length of time. As a lease is a legal estate, so a lease is a legal estate, leasehold estate can be bought and sold on the open market. Okay, so once you get it and it's a legal estate, apparently the estate can be bought and sold. Now you're not getting it, you're giving it to somebody else. You're giving them a leasehold. Form of land tenure or property tenure, where one party buys the right to occupy land or building for a given length of time, and now they can go ahead and sell it on the open market. A leasehold thus differs from a freehold or fee simple, where the ownership of the property is purchased outright and thereafter held for an indefinite length of time, and also differs from tenancy, where the property is rented on a periodic basis, such as weekly or monthly. No, it was for a particular length of time. Until the end of the lease period, often measured in decades or centuries, the leaseholder has the right to remain in occupation as the assured tenant, paying an agreed rent to the owner. They agree to pay the rent to the owner. Terms of the agreement are contained in the lease. So where's the lease, which has elements of contract and property law intertwined? Go figure. The term estate for years may occasionally be used. This refers to a leasehold estate or any specific period of time. The word years is misleading. An estate for years is not automatically renewed. Colloquially, lease and leasing are often formalization of a longer specific period as compared with a rental that created a tenancy at will. Terminable or renewable at the end of the short period. Okay, so an estate for years is a leasehold estate for a particular time. What's the Michigan Constitution say about franchises? This is for utilities. No franchise or license shall be granted by any township, city, village for a period longer than 30 years. Okay? And this was written in 1963. So they couldn't do it for more than 30 years. Well, by 93 it would have been over. So no utility can have a franchise for greater than 30 years. But if we gave them a franchise, then they owe us rent. And franchise, a privilege or right officially granted, the granting of certain rights and powers to a corporation. Franchise appertainment to land. Usually a franchise is not regarded as real property, or land and is not included in the term tenements. But it is sometimes characterized or classified as real property, or as a property of the nature of real property when exercised in connection with real property, and is in terms classified as real property, real estate, and land by some statutes. Okay? Term, a word, phrase, and expression, particularly one which possesses a fixed and known meaning in some science, art, or profession. It's a fixed period of determined or prescribed duration. So, is in terms for a period of time classified as real property. A specified period of time, term of lease. The word in a legal sense means fixed and definite period of time, which law describes that an officer may hold an office. Okay? So that's the kind of franchise we're talking about with an officer. As long as they've taken the prescribed oath, they have a elective franchise. If they haven't, so you have an elective franchise as the president for 4 years. In civil law, a space of time granted to the debtor for discharging his obligation. Or the extent of time which an estate is granted. Okay. All right. So you understand, right, that what we have here, this is a frickin' lease. And it was leased to the public for public utilities, drainage easements, right? For a number of different things, there was a lease. However, reserving, unto themselves or heirs, successors, assigns, and legal representatives, the reversion or reversions thereof whenever the same shall be abandoned by the public or discontinued by law. Well, a utility franchise can only last 30 years. It's been discontinued. And so we should be able to revert back to from the plat of Palm Point, which is a replat of a portion of government lot 7, plat book 23, page 2. We should be able to go back to plat book 23, page 2, and collect our rent. Because when you step forward and combine the estates back together, the rent's been held in reserve, waiting for the proper owner to appear. You're going to be the proper owner when you go and claim this. Don't ask me how to do it yet. I'm just saying that's the way it reads to me. But the one I'd be going talking to is this Dorothy H. Wilkin in the office of Clerk of the Circuit Court of the 15th Judicial Circuit of Florida, in and for Palm Beach County. You want to go find her in that office, not in the office of Clerk of the Circuit Court, all capital letters, Palm Beach County, Florida. See, it says Florida there. I don't see Florida up here. And the reason for that is this Clerk of the Circuit Court, upper lower case, is in their federal jurisdiction because a county is an organized territory. And it's an incorporated organized territory. I can't say that. It isn't incorporated because they said there is no more incorporated. They're all unincorporated federal districts. So it also is a federal district, but it is also subdivided into townships. And if you're in the federal district of this Clerk of the Circuit Court of the 15th Circuit of Florida, Palm Beach County, then you're part of a body corporate body politic, if that's where you consider yourself an inhabitant. Not you, your body corporate is the inhabitant. And it's not you, it's your business. If you take it to the township, you're just part of a body corporate. Your inhabitant is a body corporate. It's not part of the body politic. When you're part of a body politic, you give up your sovereignty, and all your property became county property. So I really think that what needs to happen, besides going and looking at this dang book here, book 23, page 2, is when you go back to that one, it's going to be under the township name instead of under Palm. Palm Point will no longer exist. You're going to revert to the plat and get rid of the replat. How we do that exactly, I don't know yet. I'm just putting it out there. Let you guys think about it, and I'm sure someone will have an answer. But it's going to start with getting this book 23, page 2. And I think you go to this gal here and say, hey, I want to revert back to the original because it says I can on the one that she certified. On the certified copy, which is for Palm Point, it says reversion is maintained by the grantor or their assigns. Go there and tell them you want to go back to whatever book 23, page 2 says. And you'd like to collect your rent. And the same with death certificates. Again, if they're in the Register of Deeds office, man, they're just been registered. They've not been recorded. They need to go to the office of the recorder. And the office of the recorder is this person here. Clerk of the Circuit Court of the 15th Judicial Circuit of Florida. In and for Palm Beach County. In that, you want to see that person in that capacity. And ask him, did you take an oath? The oath mandated by the Constitution. If so, I accept it. I want to go back to the original plat, and I'm here to collect the rent. And see how they handle that question. And if you don't like the answer, send a complaint to the Vicar General. More on that later. See ya.